I think that's enough time.
Let's see. How do we share this?
I think we need 10.
We are officially live. This is Untitled.
No doubt.
Um, I'm gonna try and share it on Facebook real quick. I appreciate you all's patience, etc.
Yeah, man. No doubt. No doubt.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on one second.
Try to get
When
some
you
people to
share it,
come
tag
in.
my wife on it, Rob, if you can. Tag Abby.
All right. Got you.
I should probably take my laptop out.
Where
That
are my
might be smart.
glasses? Let me get my glasses so I can see you guys well.
No,
Spectacles.
I don't think it's your eyes. I think it's the quality of Hangout.
Uh, all right.
I'm so curious to see how this like turns out. You know what I mean?
Me too. Let's talk about it.
All
So
right.
Marion, yo, how you been? I haven't heard from you in a while.
How are you?
Man, I'm good. I'm chilling.
Where are you? Are you guys in Alabama?
I am. I'm currently in Georgia, but I am
Okay.
back in Alabama.
Okay. That's cool. That's cool. I'm back in your home state.
Yeah,
Where's
you in Jersey? Yeah,
I'm in
yeah.
Jersey. Yeah.
I'm supposed to be going up to Jersey in June.
Okay. Let me know.
I will. I will,
Please let
yo.
me know. This place is
Yeah.
interesting. Would you ever move back?
Nah. Never move back. Never
Why?
move back. Honestly, it's just the cost of living. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
love Jersey. Like I love the culture.
Yeah,
Um, but I've been exposed too much to the South as far
I
as the
know.
dollar is concerned, and it
I
just don't make no
know.
sense, yo. It makes
I
no sense.
know. I'm on the same page. I was telling Rob like a couple minutes ago how I want to move to like the DMV area, not
Hmm.
DC because DC is expensive too,
Right.
but um somewhere more affordable
Yeah.
and
I feel
somewhere
like
where the roads are better.
then you got to move to the South still because as long as you up top, that salt be damaging the asphalt.
I
The ice
know.
is really the ice. The ice be stretching the ground and
Right,
cracking
right.
it. So, what I mean, I want to
Now
settle in Texas.
Maryland though, I don't know. Okay, we're in Texas.
Probably the Dallas area.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
cool. That's cool. I, I thought about Dallas, but I just gotta drive too far for
Yeah.
everything.
But the flights out of Dallas are cheap.
That's true. The airport's not bad.
Yeah.
Rob, whenever you're ready, I know we're over here
Yeah,
talking
we
and
just kind of,
stuff.
yeah, we just wasting
Not
time.
good. We I'm right with you. Okay, let's do this. I just updated the title, because it's a little all changes saved. Anyways, okay, let's get started, y'all. It's gonna be the first one. Might be a little rough, but we got it going. Um, yeah. Okay, so this conversation is about infighting among people of African descent. I didn't know any other title. It's kind of bland, but it paints the picture, right, of what we're doing.
That's a good topic,
So
though.
just what's up?
No, I said that's a good topic, though.
Yeah. So it's three of us. It should make for a good conversation. I think there may have been too many before, so I'm glad it's kind of whittled down a little bit. To
Mhm.
begin with, I guess you guys could just introduce yourselves, say as much as you want to say, but mainly, who you're repping, like what nation you were born in, tribe, if it's applicable, and things of that nature.
Okay, well,
Okay.
ladies first.
I know,
Ladies
my
first.
fellow Oaklandite know how it is. My name is Doreen Youngao. Everybody calls me Miriam. Um, I was born and raised in the Great Republic of Kenya. I lived there for 8 years prior to moving to the United States of America. Um, and my tribe is Kisi. Both
See.
my parents are from the Kisi, of course, and specifically, I'm from South Morirango, Eko na Etago. That's where I'm from. I currently live in New Jersey, but we'll see. Maybe I'll move back to the motherland one day.
No
Hey.
doubt. No doubt. No doubt.
Well, I am Lawrence Souffrant. I was born in Brooklyn, raised in New Jersey. My descendancy, if you will, is Haitian. I'm of Haitian descent. And of course, the island of Haiti is mixed up of a lot of different West African tribes. And we'll probably deal with that another time. I currently live in Huntsville, Alabama. Um, yeah. Oh, and my wife, she's Ghanaian, even though she's not on the call, but I gotta rep her. She's
All right.
Ghanaian from the Ashanti tribe, so I do have a little bit of history with that as well.
Okay. Okay. Cool. And my name is Robert Bailey. I am from Buffalo, New York, well, Western New York. I grew up in Syracuse as well, and I am African American. Far back as I can remember, we straight up African American. But my family hails from different parts, partially North Carolina. Um, have some family in Mississippi, things of that nature. So we all come from the South, of course, like most Black people when you trace back far enough. And that's who I am. Okay, so today's topic, right? This is spawned from, of course, a lot of hype around Black Panther. It was an excellent depiction of African unity, and it was although fantasy, it was a great depiction of what maybe could have been had Africa not been interfered with in the way that it was. Um, Amazing. You know, what's the word I'm looking for? For anthropology,
Mhm.
they included a number of cultures. It was quite interesting.
Yep.
Black people were united for like a couple days, yo, and then
Mm.
like little even leading up to the movie, there were little issues being presented like around cultural appropriation.
Mm.
Um, and people feeling like Black people are just kind of doing fancy dress and things of that nature. Like a lot of issues were coming to the fore amongst the various subcultures of people of African descent, the various cultures, be you Caribbean or African American or African or Afro Latina or Latino. And so that's what we're talking about today. We're just gonna try and get to it because we all have felt the tensions and um, just the stereotypes that we might have held for each other as children or even as adults. And so to get started, Miriam, you said you were born in Kenya.
Yes.
You're of the Kisi tribe and you lived there 8 years. Could you just tell us of your experience of coming to America and experiencing Black people or just Black people from other countries and cultures and how that was for you as a Kenyan girl?
Yeah, sure, sure. So for me, when I first came to America, I moved to my family was at Andrews University because my dad came for grad school.
Mm,
So as you know, Andrews is quite diverse. So for me, coming from Africa, you come with your accent, you come with your, clothes, which probably is not as westernized or as modern as it is here in America. So for me,
mm,
immediately, I remember my first day of school, somebody who we Rob, was making fun of me. And that person just happened to be African, but she also had African friends. And I was made fun of the way I talked, the way I dressed. I was called African booty scratcher, you know. So for
mm.
me, it was kind of like, what? But you're black too, you know? So that was kind of my experience. And then after that we moved to Minnesota,
Mm.
and that was my first time really being exposed to like African Americans. And
Mm.
it's usually the African Americans from like North Minneapolis who are quote unquote known as like ghetto, I guess you can say.
Mm.
So I was never exposed. So that was my first exposure to Caribbeans was when I moved to Atlanta and went to Berean SDA Church. when Pastor
mm,
Bird used to pastor there, and that's when
mm.
I was exposed to a different. I guess you can say the educated people
Because Adventists are really
in a
educated.
way. Exactly. And
How old were you during this time?
I was 17 when I moved to Atlanta.
Oh wow, yeah.
And this was actually the first exposure for my parents to see, wait, because here in America, Black people are African Americans are painted as just, ghetto, hood rat, whatever it is. So for them, it was like, what? But for me, I did have a little bit more exposure from TV and also from like, I used to listen to gospel. So that was the first time I was like, wow, that, what is Haiti, Jamaica? And then I went to Oakwood and, Oakwood, that's I always tell people I'm half Haitian, half Jamaican, and full Kenyan because that's where I got that's where I got a lot of my Caribbean influence from and everything. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's been my experience with Black people of the diaspora and from
And
elsewhere.
did you have more positive interactions with Caribbean people early on, or African American, or just in general in your life? How was that?
Um, I had more of a positive experience with Caribbeans than I did with
Mm,
African Americans. African
mm.
Americans are the ones who would call me the African booty scratcher.
African police gotcha. Yeah, I'm smiling because
If
it's
you're
such a yeah. That's definitely a thing for young Black kids. I wonder if they still say it. They probably do. Unfortunately.
I have no idea.
Nah, I
Yeah,
doubt it. I think it's cool to be African now, so they
now
probably
it
don't say
is.
it
Yeah.
And
anymore.
I right. And I remember me and Rob were talking about it on Facebook. So for me it was just like, why is it that you don't want to be Black when I mean African. And then I think with Caribbeans why it was better is because I think we have a lot more in common as far as
Mhm.
culture and upbringing. There were a lot of similarities there. When I
Mm,
see a Haitian, I see a Kenyan, like literally.
mm,
So
mm,
there
mm,
were it's easier to blend that way, I guess you can say, because you do see the similarities.
Yeah.
But yeah.
mm. Okay, so with that being said, I think Lawrence, man, I'll be interested to hear your experience. I mean, Brooklyn is a melting pot of. I mean, I think it has the largest Caribbean migration in the United States, right?
It might. I don't know. It's a toss up between Brooklyn and Miami, I would say. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
but
I mean, and you say you're Haitian, correct?
yes, I'm Haitian.
All right, yeah, man. Tell us about your experience, man.
Well, I mean, I am. I'm probably the worst Haitian that you'll ever meet because I don't speak any Creole. I am fully Americanized as far as language is concerned. But
Mm,
I'm also very very Haitian. I guess a way to describe it is kind of like W.E.B. Du Bois's book, the Soul of Black Folks, how he talks about the tension between being African and American.
mm,
I could understand it from the tension of being Haitian and American because in a lot of ways I'm very Haitian as far as
okay.
upbringing. In a lot of ways I'm very American. But growing up, I wasn't really proud of my Haitian heritage. It was something that I would kind of try to hide, but I couldn't hide it because my last name always gave it away. You know
Mm,
what I mean?
mm,
So, and you get a lot of jokes. Haiti is probably the most hated island in the Caribbean. At least it used to be. We're getting mad love now.
yeah.
It's just a good season for everybody right now.
Mm,
But
mm, mm.
back in the day, Jamaicans got like the most love, and Haiti just got like
Mm,
just we just people used to just disrespect us in so many ways. It's just the way it was growing up. So I didn't really embrace my Haitian side, I would say publicly. But I've always enjoyed my Haitian culture, always enjoyed Haitian food, always enjoyed Haitian
Mm,
music.
facts.
Always enjoyed the games that we played. So it was kind of like when you're around other Haitians, there's always that sense of pride. When it comes to meeting other people outside of the Haitian community, um, like I said, it wasn't a whole lot of love, but it was like I would get love when they would come to my house. Like, I wouldn't get any love for being Haitian, but people appreciated kind of the hospitality that Haitians had. And I guess because of the ignorance of the time, they couldn't like put it together that
Mm,
like this hospitality that you're appreciating is a part of our culture. So while you're
mm,
making fun of us, you actually appreciate us in a lot of different ways. So
mm, mm.
so that's kind of how the game was. And the East Coast is also different from like all of the U.S. There's no place like Brooklyn, no place like, Jersey or whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
so that dynamic was very interesting. I didn't realize how unique that whole area was until I went to Virginia. When I went to Hampton, Virginia first, that's when I kind of realized that Jersey, or that just East Coast vibe, was just something special, Um, and yeah, so I kind of bang with that. So now I'm getting more in tune with my Haitian side as far as history is concerned. Because I'm Haitian. I got the culture down pat. I know what it means to be Haitian in a lot of ways, but I want to learn more of what Haiti been through and all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No doubt. Why do you think it is, man, that Haitians were looked down upon?
I mean, now I could say now from the research that I've done, it's because Haiti is the biggest threat to white supremacy. I
Mm,
mean, the way that we saved ourselves, for lack of a better term, is a threat. So there was definitely an agenda against the Haitian community. So propaganda played a major part. Ignorance played a major part. And because the U.S. is really, really brainwashed via TV, they don't really, it's hard. And it's no offense to, Americans, but it's hard for Americans to really think for themselves. They believe that if it's spoken about enough, then it must be true. Like they
mm,
this idea that a lie can be repeated for decades, it
mm,
doesn't sit well with Americans. They're like, no, it's always been like that, and they're really ignorant in that regard. So I think
mm,
because Haiti has been seen as the poorest island in the world and all that stuff, like and they demonized voodoo significantly. So it's like, if you're Haitian, you're automatically associated with voodoo, and it's not even like real voodoo; it's the commercialized voodoo. You know what I'm saying?
mm,
So all of that stuff makes people look at Haitians like, oh, but when even when we talk about our independence, and we talk about how we freed ourselves, the first black independent nation to free themselves. When people attribute it to voodoo, they speak of it almost like it devaluates, not devaluates, it's what's the word I'm looking for, but it's almost as if it reneges on what we did. It
mm,
devalues it. It makes it look as if we didn't really free ourselves. It's almost as if Satan freed us. It's kind of the imagery.
Diluted. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, it's like diluted, it's disrespected, it's almost null and void. So that imagery, primarily the voodoo aspect and the poor aspect, though Haiti, from what I hear, because I've never been to Haiti, and that's going to change next year. But from what I hear, it's a very beautiful island, and I could tell because I mean, the beautiful people that come from Haiti, the food is just amazing, and there is a tenacity with Haitians
mm,
that I think should be respected, but it was just never discussed.
mm, mm, mm. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I guess I'll share mine. My experience. Obviously, I'm African American, uh, and I grew up in Syracuse as a child. And so I was able to interact, just being in New York. We weren't in New York City, but just being in New York in general, it was still pretty diverse because you had so many people coming up from the city. And so,
Mhm.
like, one of my early mentors was Jamaican. We had a friend. His name is Malusi, and his last name I can't pronounce, and it has a click in it. He's from South Africa. I think it's
Mhm.
the Hosa people that have the click, if I'm correct. And and so I had exposure to like different little cultures here and there, and I was never like intentionally like self-hating towards Africa, but I remember it being a rather normal thing to call someone an African booty scratcher. And so I almost feel like I must have said something like that at some point, although I don't have like an active memory of it, and I don't think I've ever shamed anyone intentionally for being like from another island or country. But definitely if you was like musty or like or like you
That's
wasn't rocking
something,
like
by the way.
huh? And
Musty.
no shame, right? But just keeping it 100, like those were things that like like would throw us off. And I think hip hop and like African American culture is all about being cool, or like black culture in general. It's all about being cool. Like we're all fighting for like the cool. And so when you have somebody who comes like your status is definitely gonna be up next to homeboy with like the high water pants and like the black
Right.
shoes, So it was like
And the
easy.
ashy ankles, the ashy
Yeah.
heels.
It was like
Yeah.
easy bait, and it took like quote unquote time for us to come along and kind of be accepting and stop being ignorant. And they will also come around and like adopting the culture, and so like sticking up for themselves, and that's like and like I guess either sticking up for themselves, showing out in sports, or showing out in some way. There were many different ways that like somebody that we viewed as different could like endear themselves to us, quote unquote. We viewed us as, I think, as like the in group, but at the same time, I think a lot of my friends growing up were like half Jamaican, we just on one level we just didn't care. It just wasn't a thing in reality. And that's like by the time I moved to Andrews, my mom goes back to school. She was working as a nurse, and then she was doing theology at Andrews. That was my first time ever like meeting multiple cultures, yo. I mean, I was pretty ignorant, fam. Like I didn't know what a Samoan was. You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all was Hawaiian. Like I had no idea. I knew obviously Africa was in a country and stuff like that, but I had never met so many different people, and that was the first time where I was the minority as an African American. You know what I'm saying? Like Andrews is the most diverse place on the planet, yo. And so all my friends were from the islands or from some country in Africa. And so that was where I got acculturated and realized like, oh, it's just different accents. Like they're absolutely normal. They're just like me. You know what I mean? A lot of them got way more money than I got, you know what I'm saying? And so it was just a enlightening period. And from there I didn't have any biases. Let me say this. So negative experiences, right? There was like a growing up among the parents of those kids that we would hang out with, like an elitism. Like I remember at one point, like I think it was the Caribbean people in our church. They like separated and started a church upstairs from the sanctuary, and it was like, yo, they wasn't having it. They didn't mingle with us. They would eat separately, and it was just like a thing, I just remember hearing that older Caribbean people were like, or African people were like elitist and kind of looked down on us. But to be honest, I never experienced it personally that I can remember until I moved to like Andrews, and I would get comments like, oh, where you from? Like, where are your people from? Oh, we from Buffalo. Nah, but like, what island? We not from the island. Okay, what country in Africa? Nah, I'm African American. No, you ain't. And it would be based upon my behavior. Like if I was behaving very well, or if I preached, or if I did something. Even in grad school, I was getting the same sort of energy. Like, nah, you're not African American. Y'all don't act like that. That was like things that would be said to me. And so those were kind of my interactions. And by then, obviously, I had a certain level of like just understanding. And I had been to Africa by that point. And so when I went to Africa, right, most people were very much, and I went to Kenya actually. So, shout out to Miriam. I've been to Kenya twice now. That was my first Africa home. That was the first place I ever went. And so when I was there, most people were like, oh, welcome home. You're home. That was the energy. There was a minority of people who didn't care. It was like not on their radar. Like, they don't care that you're here, like whatever. And there was even some friction of like, oh, these Americans, and so some viewed us as just American. And others kind of disparaged us for being American, if that makes any sense. So some were indifferent, some were for it, and some were just like, oh, these are just Americans. We don't consider y'all African, but for the most part, it was all love, yo. And we were clicking with the people immediately. And then what I remember to be shocking was how much everybody looked like people from every city I've ever been in. Like black people, they're like, I'm like, man, I know people that look just like this guy that just passed me. Like they look just like us, and it was amazing in a way that I didn't think it would be. You know what I mean? And man, I just remember like seeing a white person was like, "Where's Waldo, yo?" Like we ran across one. It was like, "Yo, what are you doing here?" It was just a sea of black people, and I could never explain to you the feeling of not standing out, but then kind of standing out because we're kind of obviously American with our book bags and all that stuff, right? And so that's been my experience. I've been blessed to like have that influence. I come from a very conscious like African American family. Like I have uncles who are like Yoruba priests and things of that nature, very Afrocentric, a lot of like Egyptian imagery around our house, and we used to have like, I don't know, the little straw chair. I don't know if you're talking, you know what I'm talking about, with a huge back.
I know what you're talking
Old
about.
school joint. We used to have one like a very African. I know what Juneteenth is, and Kwanzaa, and you know what I'm saying. And so that's kind of been my experience. But I to kind of kick it off, right? I won't lie. I remember I was in grad school, and this girl came fresh from Kenya, right? And she was so pleasant when she said it. She looked at me one day and she was like, "Oh, like, you don't have any culture." It just randomly, and I was like, "Yo, like, whoa, like, and she just said it again to me, like, you don't have any culture." And we weren't able to have the conversation then, or ever really have it about, um, you know, uh, what had been taken from African Americans, and it was like a very sensitive
Right, right.
statement to me, like, ouch, you know what I'm saying, like,
Mhm.
but then I had to like like, we have developed a culture here, but
Mhm.
it was a painful topic to a degree, and so I think there's been hurt on each side, right? And so how are you all, do you currently feel any tension within yourself regarding people of African descent from other cultures? Like, where do you genuinely stand, like, right now in that conversation?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't call it tension per se.
Mm,
It's like I don't know. I guess I know too much now. You know what I mean? So it's hard to have tension, understanding a little bit, not even a full picture, but being a little well rounded on the African experience here first.
mm,
You know what I mean? And how Africa even responded, because a lot of people don't know that there was a period where Africa was asking for their people back. It was a small period, but they was like, yo, they didn't know this was the type of slavery we was going to go through.
yeah.
Um, but even with that being said, I know when I went to Ghana and to Zimbabwe, actually in both places,
Mm,
a lot of people don't know the the black experience, if you will, for lack of a better term. They
mm,
don't they don't have any understanding of the post traumatic stress.
yeah.
Like for them, it's like you're free now, so do better. Like that's kind of
Mm,
the mindset that they have. At least that's the vibes that I would get. It's
mm,
like, why aren't you doing better? So when I would break down certain things about systemic racism and all, like, when I just break it down, they're looking at me like, how come nobody is talking about it like this? And I'm
mm,
like, what do you mean? Everybody's talking about it like this. So
yeah.
clearly there's like a break, you know what I mean, in communication between those who are here, who are conscious of what's going on, and then those who are still in the continent. And I would say the ignorance is kind of on both sides, because there is a separation where in theory it's like
Mm,
we're one people, but in
mm,
practicality, I know who my people are. If you get what I'm saying.
mm,
And so
Yeah.
I'm gonna hold it down for my people. We're all one, but I'm gonna hold it down for my people, and that's kind of the vibes that I'm kind of feeling right now.
mm.
Yeah. Um, Sorry, you kind of went out. My Wi-Fi sucked, so I kind of went on LTE. But you said,
Mhm.
do we feel any tensions between the African
Yeah, any
Americans? Sorry.
tension, or even just discuss this. What stereotypes might you have held, or do you believe maybe some Kenyans or some Africans in general? Obviously, that's a broad
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of,
yeah,
but just like, what are some stereotypes you think, and how
yeah,
did they
yeah.
develop?
So for me, like being African and coming to America, we were automatically told don't hang out with those blacks.
Who told you? There's always
Almost
this weird,
almost every African parent I feel probably told
ah,
their child that. And even Africans, I don't know if you've noticed, Africans always live in the suburbs. At
Mhm.
least where I'm from. I don't know any
oh,
Africans
facts.
in Minneapolis, or maybe a handful, that will go live amongst African Americans. Like that doesn't
Mm.
happen. So we
Hmm.
always live in the suburbs, and we take our kids to, the suburban schools or private school. Well, I
Okay.
was in private school, I think, majority of my life except 2 years.
Mm,
So that's from the jump, coming from Africa. Stay away from
mm,
those people, those blacks. Don't be like blacks. That's what they say. So
mm,
that was always a stereotype. And then even right now, um, I, a lot of my African friends are always saying, "I can't relate. Why are people tripping about this?" Why are black people tripping? I can't relate. And it always bothers me because for me, I'm like, okay, number one, Africans were colonized. We didn't
Right.
go through, and to be honest with you, we're not free from that.
Right.
We still, I mean, we,
None
there
of
is
us.
residual issues going
Yeah.
on, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like for example, in my country, we have tribalism. It's so deep
Mm-hmm.
in our DNA, you
Mm.
know?
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, when I go to Kenya, I've never heard for once anybody address colonization and
Right.
how it's impacted us or what we're doing to get over it.
Right.
You
Right.
know, like it's never addressed. So for me, what I want to do and what I'm looking into is to see the similarities. And I hope
Mm-hmm.
this will bridge the gap between us because,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we know the colonizer and what they want, conquer and
Yeah.
divide, you know? And they don't want us
Mm-hmm.
to unite. So for me, I think this is going to be a bridge to unite us more and to kind of debunk these myths and these, you know, these horrible um, stereotypes. And then for us, I think with Africans, I've heard a lot of African Americans say Africans come here and take our jobs and our
Mm-hmm.
opportunities, you know, or Africans will say it's because we have a better work ethic type of thing. And then, and I don't know if I told you this, but a lot of Americans or Caucasians like to perpetuate that narrative of, you know, you Africans are different from them. You know, you
Mm-hmm.
guys are more educated, you guys are
Mm-hmm.
better, and that's where this um sorry, I stutter a little bit, elitist mindset comes from, you know, and it
Mm-hmm.
actually comes from back home because we feel one tribe is better than another tribe, you know, and we kind of carry it on to
Mm-hmm.
America.
So
So
you've actually had, have you ever actually had a white person say something like that to you before?
I've heard it, and
You've heard.
it might not be directly said, but even in behavior, you can
Mm-hmm.
tell.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they don't have to verbally say it, but you can see how they treat an African compared to maybe an African American
Yeah.
type of
Mm-hmm.
thing.
No,
And
it's true because even in Zimbabwe, when I went to Zimbabwe, I was shocked. Maybe is the word I want to use. I was shocked to see the similarities. What surprised me more with Zimbabwe was kind of what you said, how they were. It appeared as if they were ignorant to it. Like in Zimbabwe, they had a lot of colorism, and it was my first time where I would hear I guess, the mixed people. They created their own race and they call themselves colored. Like they're not black, they're not white, they're colored. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like I'm looking at them like you're light skinned, you know? But they're like, no. I'm like, you're just as black as me, you're just light skinned. They're like, no, we're colored. And they've accepted that they're second class, whites are first, and then blacks would be the dark skinned, they're the bottom. And they're okay with that. So coloreds are they get more opportunity than the blacks.
Mm-hmm.
Coloreds, they tend to be more European. Like when I was when I was in Zim, when I was with, they would call themselves color. I still call them light skin, but when I was with the lighter family, we ate with the utensils and it was good, it was good. But when I went to the more tribal areas where they were darker, that's where we got, the salsa and the more hands-on. It's similar to like fufu almost, but their version of it, if you will. That's when we got more. That's where I got more of that traditional stuff where we washed our hands. The servant would come and pour the water. We washed our hands before we
hmm
would dig into the food. I got that in the tribal areas. They were more, in tune with their culture, their original culture, while the so-called coloreds, they took pride in being more European.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about going to Switzerland and going to New Zealand, like they took a lot of pride in that. And it blew my mind because I'm like, this is white supremacy, living out in Africa, but they don't see it as such. They in their minds it's just we're more civilized. That's kind of how they would play. We're more educated. We're more civilized, and etc. I'm just sitting here like, wow, it's amazing because this is a whole other fight now. Different from what we have here, but yet still the same.
yeah, yeah, and it's true because even in Kenya, people, a lot of the wealthier families, they don't necessarily take their kids to Kenyan school, and of course it has to do with the education system. Maybe they feel it's not as good, but a lot of children go to American schools or European schools.
Yeah.
Mm,
And it's just, there's no, and probably I need to read up more on how our education system is, but it's seen as better, I guess you can say. If I go to
mm,
Kenya now, I I mean, being educated here, I would be viewed as better. And then again, there are a lot of American companies there who prefer
Yeah.
American educated people rather than
mm,
the native people of the land. So
mm. Yeah. Yeah. When I went, I remember they were very impressed by the fact that we had American degrees, and like we were there with a number of Kenyans, and one of them had gotten a scholarship to like a school in like the Netherlands or something like that. And he went back to his old undergrad school and was just kind of giving them like a motivational speech. It was really great. I mean, man, like, and I think one of the guys was like, yeah, like if you work really hard, you can be just like my boy here, and it was like, just high praise for European and American degrees.
you aspire
Um,
to that, right?
yeah, and it was just I don't know. I've always noticed, whenever kind of having these conversations and it boils over, like let's say if a African person feels superior than a Caribbean or vice versa, and we're having it out, right? Like when we start talking about obviously a lot of stereotypes are being placed upon what they consider the underachievers of these particular societies. You know what I'm saying? But if you go to any black population, country, island, ghetto, whatever, there's always hierarchy. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And like our excuse for like why our other brethren and sistren aren't quote unquote achieving, it sounds exactly the same to me.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's the government. Oh, it's the
Mm-hmm.
education. Oh, it's the conspiracy. Oh, it's the this, it's the that.
Mm,
Yeah.
We all got the same excuses for the same issue we're facing, but we still maintain these kind of ignorant views. So I'm curious to know, like how did these changes and kind of your experience begin to happen, and like what was it like coming to Atlanta or coming to Oakwood, or you going to Hampton, or I guess you were kind of born into a melting pot, Lawrence. But what was that? Okay, Miriam, what
Yeah.
was that like coming to Oakwood and just seeing all these different sorts of Black people? What specific encounters kind of began to change your mindset?
um, I I mean, for me, it was. I always say this. Oakwood was like the best 4 years of my life. I don't care what
Mm,
nobody says. It was. It really was. It really
mm,
was. And for me, I didn't even know it was a HBCU until I
mm.
got there. Then I started learning what a
Really?
HBCU.
Mm,
And being at Oakwood actually I have a similar feeling
mm,
than when I go to Kenya. There's a feeling of being home. There's just a feeling about being around your people.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people will say, but they're not Kenyan. And for me, I don't like having that mindset where
Mm-hmm.
because you're not Kenyan or just because you're not Kisi, you're not my people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for me, it opened my eyes to our similarities. Like
mm,
it blew my mind. And I think the fact that majority of us were Adventist even made it more impactful. It's like, wow,
mm,
you grew up watching Gaither? Wow, really? And or you grew up with your family doing this? Really? We did too as Africans.
mm,
I remember I was watching an interview with Ryan Coogler. I don't know if you guys watched it. And he
mm.
was talking about how when he went to South Africa, I
Oh
think it
yeah,
was,
Hot
and
97.
how and now he was saying how he went to like they made a I think they did a ceremony for him. They killed a goat or an animal for him. I'm vegetarian, so I don't know. But and I'm a
Mm,
weird African. I don't eat meat. But
mm,
anyway, so they did that for him. They cooked the meat, and he said he went into the house, and the men were in one area. The women were like in the kitchen talking together. The guys were outside,
Yeah.
doing their own thing, playing games. And he said that's like Oakland. That's how
mm,
we grew up in going to a barbecue, and
Yeah.
that's where you see the similarities, and you
Right.
would never know unless you're exposed to it.
Right.
But a lot of Africans, we love staying with each other. Like,
Mm-hmm.
have you been to Minnesota? Have you been to Texas, or
mm,
even here in New Jersey? We don't really go outside. So for me, being at Oakwood, being at Berean, I went to Oakwood because of Berean.
mm,
There were so many doctors, so many nurses, so many professors, so many. And for Africans love education.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
love education. The only reason why my parents, I feel, let me go to Oakwood is, number one, it's Adventist. Number two, they saw the product of Oakwood as far
Mhm.
as, these professional people. So for
Mm.
them, it's like, of course, my daughter can go. Yeah, look at these people who are successful.
Mhm.
So that was it was a good exposure for not only me, but for also my parents
Yeah,
and for the other Africans who came to see.
got you.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
And,
raised a good question, man. Go ahead.
oh no, I was gonna say because well, it's funny because I was born here, but I Hampton had an interesting effect on me because it was at Hampton that I learned about Black excellence.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I ran the streets when I was in Jersey and in New York, and that street life is kind of like, there's a point where you kind of, even though I grew up in the church low key abandoned me because I was kind of running the streets, so they didn't really show me much love. So I didn't really care to be Adventist for real. Like keeping it 100. I went to Oakwood on accident. I had no desires to go to Oakwood.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was at Hampton and I saw Greek life and I saw, the way that black people dressed, where they weren't trying to be thugs. There was a handful that was, but the majority of them, they weren't trying to be thugs. They had goals and aspirations and they were taking leadership positions. You know what I mean? I never saw that before. Like I never saw that before. So
Mm-hmm.
it changed kind of what I viewed Black America to be like, if that makes sense. It's not no like
Mm,
Black America is no longer, what I mean, the streets and the drugs and the violence, like that's no longer the sum total of Black America. I was exposed to a whole other side of Black America, which is why I was able to be a little more successful when I went to Oakwood. It was
Mm-hmm.
almost like Hampton prepped me for that.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I went to Oakwood in my raw state, I there's enough clowns in Oakwood where I would have just stayed there. You know what I'm saying? Hampton did a real good job. And like when you go to Hampton, they low key, for lack of a better term, they brainwash you. They tell you you are the cream of the crop. Like there's no one better than you. If you're
mm,
here, it's because you're the best. Everybody can't be here. Like that's kind of how they talk to you. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, you start to kind of low key believe it because everybody's dressing good and so many people
yeah.
that didn't get accepted. And you're like, yo, I must be something special. They drill
Yeah.
that into you. You don't get that kind of stuff in the hood. Like you don't get that stuff in the streets. So
Nah.
it
Right.
completely changed
Reprogramming
my.
you. That's
Mm-hmm.
awesome.
Yeah, but in a
That's
in a
awesome.
good way. In a good. I'll say in a
Love
good
it.
way.
No, I agree. That's amazing.
So, Miriam, you touched on what we have in common.
Hmm.
I think that raises a great question. Like, are Caribbean people, are African Americans African? I'd love to hear both of your perspectives on it. Are we African? What makes us African? What makes us of the diaspora? Where's that tension? Just what are your thoughts?
Where's the tension? Are you African? Okay.
Mhm.
Yes, you are African. You might be disconnected from Africa, but
Mhm.
that's your history. It's in your
Mhm.
veins. That is who you are. I think it's just taking the time to do the research and to learn. Um, a friend of mine did her DNA, and I saw her. I think she revealed it on Facebook yesterday, and she found out, she's from Cameroon and these other locations. So taking those steps, I think, really helps you to
Mhm.
figure out what your identity is. Um, I think where the tension is, mainly it's media, honestly speaking. Mainly it's
Mhm.
media, and also where the another tension is where Africans and maybe even Caribbeans don't take the time to understand the African Americans' history.
Mhm.
I took the time to look into it because, number one, I love African American culture. I think it's awesome. um,
Mhm.
and not in like I want to be I want to appropriate it, but I do find that, I mean, everything cool in America is African American, honestly
Mhm.
speaking.
Yeah, yeah,
So
without question.
there's an there's an there's an attraction, you know what I'm saying? So for
Mhm.
me, I took the time to understand and to see where they're coming from, because even now when I hear like Africans make these little comments, I'm like, but do you know why that is?
Right,
Because you're
right.
you're real quick to judge. You're real quick
Yeah,
to judge. And for me, if you put anybody, whether you're black, white, Asian, whatever it is, in the same situations that African Americans are in, you would be in the same state. It's not a black or white thing. It's a human thing, and it's
Mm-hmm.
Right.
unfortunate that it's us black people that had to go through it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's where we can begin to kind of decrease the tension and to
Mm-hmm.
identify who you are. You can speak on that yourself, Rob. You went to Kenya
Mm-hmm.
and you know how it was for you. And for me, I think it's easier for me because maybe I was born and raised there, but I came at 8. I was very, very young. And when
Mm-hmm.
I was young, I didn't want to go to Africa. I was like, ugh, it's dirty, it's dusty, it's
Mhm.
musty, all these
Mm-hmm.
things. But once I hit college,
Yeah.
that pride, once I got to Oakwood,
Mhm.
actually, I will say that that's when I started being proud of being black. And then after that, I was like, I'm also African. Now
Mm-hmm.
it's like full fledged. I go home every year and I want to
Mm-hmm.
move
Mhm.
back now. So
Mm-hmm.
you got to educate yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So get that
Indeed.
knowledge.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. Lawrence, any thoughts, man?
Yeah,
Are
man. I
maybe
mean,
getting African Americans African?
it's a weighted question, you know. So I'm gonna bring the other side because Miriam, she really hit it in the head. Without question, we're African, you know.
Mm,
But even when we say that, Africa as a continent is full of so many people groups, and where the American African falls is in accepting a value system that's similar to Africa. I think that's where we separate because it is hard to and I'll put it this way. I believe that Black America has a value system. It's just not articulated as well as other parts of Africa. Like we believe this, we believe that, we interact like this. This is proper, this is not proper. We have it, but it's not as articulated. And I'm not saying that as a shot. I believe because of our experience, we're very immature in developing our own culture.
could you give me an
Like,
example of what you mean though, just so I can make sure?
okay, okay, we'll use Marion's example. How when you would go eat, um, the men would be together eating here, the women would be together eating there. Haiti is very similar, where if no one tells you women go there, men go there, but there's an understanding that the men will sit together and the women will sit together, and men will talk and women will talk. And there's also understanding that what the men discuss is not discussed with the women. Like it's a value. You know what I mean? When men talk, it's men talking, and
Mm-hmm.
and that stays within the men. So even little children could not sit with the men. The children had to go where the children go, and everybody kind of had their place. In the Haitian tradition, the women would serve the men. That's a common thing. So if you're married and your wife did not get you a plate, it brought this honor to her. You know what I mean? Like, why would you not make? And it was like women would tell her, "Do you want another woman to make your husband a plate? Do you want to, do you want to open up that avenue for another woman to come and do your job?" And so in American culture, they kind of look at that like, we're equal. He could get his own plate. That's kind of like the thing. And
You think
I'm not
so?
saying whether it's right or wrong,
Hmm.
but it is something different, if you will. Because even when I went to Ghana and to Zimbabwe, and even a little bit of South Africa, that was like a common thing where the woman would make the man the plate. Not, I mean, American women would look at that as she's devaluing herself, and not all American women, but in general, they would look at that like that's old fashioned, et cetera, et cetera. But that's very, very African, and that's just one example, if
Hmm.
you will. So I think if we're going to say that the American African is indeed African, there has to be a returning of African value systems to some degree, where
Hmm.
it's like what is proper, because the U.S. has a society that says pretty much do what you want. Like just do what you want
Mm,
and have fun with it. But that's not African. In Africa, no matter what part I went to, at least there is a proper way to conduct yourself in each scenario, and you have to learn those proper ways in order to be successful, in order to be respected. You know what I mean? And then you also have your home where you could do what you want at your home, but that's at your home, and your home is where you take care of it. You know what I mean?
So
You're the head honch, not you
let,
living with somebody. You know what I mean?
let me challenge you though, man, because
Yeah,
I
go
feel
ahead.
like that is very much African American culture. I will say that that cultural ethic decreases the younger you get, like with the generation. But my
Hmm.
grandparents' generation was absolutely like that for the most part.
Mm.
You know what I'm
No, I
saying?
agree
Like
with you. I agree with you on that. I agree with you on that.
even now, I ain't got no place in the kitchen with my aunties, bro. They ain't
Yeah,
trying to hear nothing about I learned how to cook in college, man. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? Like
But
I ain't
but
doing
that's
nothing.
but that's actually my point. It's like
Yeah.
we're reversing. We're not increasing that, because I agree with you. Back in the day, it was like, especially in the South. The
Mm-hmm.
South is probably the most African of all the U.S. because there was a value system in the South, and I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying that there wasn't one in the North, but what I'm saying is that aspect is disappearing because we can't deal with what it used to be. We have to deal with what it is now, and I'm not trying to offend anyone, but even the what it means to be a man versus a woman in the U.S. is shifting in
Mm-hmm.
so many ways. When you go to Africa, it's clear this is what men do. This is what women do. Like it's like boom, you know what I mean? So and like because we're in the U.S., you got to kind of walk softly, I guess. But it's the reality. Things are changing, and I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm seeing that shift as something that has to be addressed. But when it is addressed, it creates so much friction, even in the black community. When you talk about certain things like black in the black community, the conversations today, at least the conversations I'm a part of, they want to remove gender roles and they want to. Some of them are even removing marriage. Like that, what's the point of marriage? It's just a piece of paper. You know what I mean? And it's like so much stuff that's like these aren't the same value systems. Like this is my point.
Yeah,
Like,
no, I agree with that. I agree with
you
that.
know,
And I was gonna say even because I know like when we were in Kenya, the whole you bring a jug and the bowl, the
yeah,
men get their hands washed and everything.
Yeah, that's the
And
thing.
so
Indeed.
when we moved to America, because my dad has always been like the breadwinner my
hmm
whole life, and then when we moved to America, my mom started working, a little bit more. She worked in Kenya, but here it's where um she's actually, she worked a lot more. And what happens, I think, is because now you have, oh yeah, another thing, and in Africa, a lot of people have um help, house help. We call them
yeah,
maids.
yeah,
So you don't have to do as much housework as,
yeah,
but when you come to America, there's no such thing. So both the husband and the wife have to contribute. Now it's a challenge for a lot of African men because they grow up in homes where their mother and the father are like, you don't belong in the kitchen. Then you're brought to
Mm-hmm.
America where it's you're both working. My wife can't be the primary cook. She can't be the primary, she
hmm
can't do everything. So those roles have to shift.
yeah,
And now it's actually happening in Africa too, and a lot of the, you know this uh, both male and female are working now,
hmm
but we still have the house help, which is helping a lot, so we can maintain those roles. But here, when you come here, that's where it shifts, and we would like to maintain it, but it's not possible.
hmm
It's not possible. So I think that's where it kind of gets challenging. And I always tell people, especially when I talk to like my aunts and uncles or the older generation, they'll say their culture is wrong. That's wrong. And I always tell them it's different.
it's
If
different.
you
Agree.
always say it's wrong, you're always gonna have that tension. You're
Yeah,
never gonna come to an agreement. So just say
agree.
it's different and talk about it, because a
Agree.
lot of people say it's wrong and they don't want to talk about it.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
They
that's
totally
true.
dismiss it. So we have to kind of be a little bit more accepting, I guess you can say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I
Okay.
agree. I agree with that.
Well, I mean, we definitely have to have more convos, because where I want to get into, we don't have time tonight, which is what does it mean to be African?
That's the
You know,
question.
yeah,
That's the question, bro.
because
Can I
if you go ahead, I mean, go ahead, yeah,
Yeah.
go
can
ahead.
I say something? I know a person told you that African Americans don't have culture, but I feel like you guys do have culture. And one of my
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
favorite things you guys do are family reunions.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm,
love that. where
Mm,
everybody comes once a year, or do you guys do it more than once a year? I always see it like in the Tyler Perry movies and things like that.
mm,
So for people to say you have no culture is not true. You know,
mm,
But you know,
I
Miriam,
mm,
I don't know if that's a down south thing or not, because when I
yeah,
was in Jersey,
yeah.
nobody ever had a family reunion. I only saw it on TV. You know what I
Oh,
mean? So
really?
yeah, I'm in Brooklyn. Well, I
Okay.
mean, but then again, I grew up around a lot of Haitians, so maybe Haitians just didn't have family reunions. I don't know. I've only seen it in the South where they get like T-shirts made,
Yeah,
and I mean,
I
Rob,
love
maybe you can
that.
talk about that because I never, we ain't never did no family reunion.
we often we have family reunions in New York, but it was because like a large amount of our family moved up here. My great grandmother had a lot of children. You know what I'm saying? So there was a
Hmm.
lot of us. But my step family say they were from Mississippi, and so we went there to have family reunions. They didn't like it
Mm.
was only a few of them in Syracuse. You know what I'm saying? It was only a handful of them, and so we went back home to have the family reunion, and that's kind of where we got that experience. And so I think a lot of northern families still have to go south to get it, and I
Yeah.
do think it's a thing that may be dying off a little bit, like block parties. You know what I'm saying? Like I think it's one of them things
Now
Mm.
that
that's
you
up
know what I
top.
mean.
Block parties, that's up top.
Yeah,
We would have that. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And so
Dang.
I absolutely know that African Americans have culture. I mean, it's just very different.
It's
Um,
different.
it's
Yeah.
probably the most unique expression of
Yeah,
Africanisms, you know what I'm saying? Just
Mhm.
because of the unique circumstances. Most
yeah,
other people, black groups on the planet, most, I should say, um, had a certain level of like cultural agency. You know what I'm
yeah,
Mhm.
saying? Like you
yeah,
guys, even though there was neo-colonialism and colonialism, you were still the majority. Whereas
yeah,
we were surrounded, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? And so
Mm.
yeah.
our
Mm.
But even to take it even further, Rob, it's Africa, like the cultures that you see in Africa, they literally have millennium to develop those things.
indeed, indeed.
When we were brought here, all of that stuff was stripped. Like we talk about it, but I don't think we understand that it was stripped.
Yeah.
Like as the generations went, they didn't know anything from where they came from.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
New name,
So
everything. Right.
yeah,
Right.
everything. So
Right.
now what we're seeing is I guess the first time in human history in a long time a rebirthing. Like we are creating the culture. That's what hip hop was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what social media even like there's no manual for how to use social media, but yet there's an understanding of
Mm-hmm.
how to use social media. It's
Right.
just that's why I said it's not articulated. See, when you look at culture, you're looking at artwork, you're looking at rituals and symbols. We
Or
haven't existed
clothing.
long enough. Yeah,
Right.
clothing.
Right.
We no
Food.
one
Right. Whatever.
we're
Right.
not passing it down because
Yeah.
we haven't yet taught. We weren't taught to pass it down. Like, and now that I'm even talking about, maybe I should be the first one to buy my son a fitted and let him know the fitted culture. How we didn't do snapbacks in New York, we did fitted. You know what I mean? And kind of like pass that type of stuff down so the culture can be more defined because it is there without question.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. So let's. I guess we could end it off like this. What is the value of these? I'm sure, Miriam. There are things that maybe the kissy people used to do that is like taboo amongst the young people now. Like, yeah, we don't want to kill the goat no more. We ain't really, what I mean? Like, what's the thing among Haitians and among African Americans, all these different groups? Like, what's the value of the old culture? Like, why should I pass down family reunions to my kids? Why should I make sure that that's a thing, going
Mhm.
forward and things of that nature?
Um. I think for me it's like identity.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it fall and
Yeah.
values. Um. Because there are some things. Honestly, every day my mom is teaching me something new about my culture. I'm like, wait, I can't do that, or I can do that. And sometimes I'm like, that's ridiculous. Bye. And some things
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I like that. And
Mm-hmm.
one thing that I love most about my culture is hospitality and
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
I mean, you stick together no matter what. There is nothing that will break you apart. And
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
when we have guests, they're like kings and queens. My mom used to OD growing up. I'm like, why
Mm-hmm.
don't my American friends don't have to do this, whatever it is. But when a
Mm-hmm.
guest is in your home, You give them their best. It doesn't matter what
Yeah.
time they come. There's no, oh, you didn't let me you didn't let me know you're coming, I'm not going to open the door. No
Right,
such
right,
thing for me. That's definitely not. And for me, that's kind of like, it goes back to Christian values. Because for me, I tell
Mm,
people I'm a Christian before I'm Kenyan, because
mm,
that's what those are my values. So for me, I think that's why it's so important to pass them down, because if you don't, you'll get lost. You'll pick up anything. If you don't
mm,
stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So I think
mm,
that's why it's very important to pass it down.
yeah,
mm.
and I'll agree. I think it's more. It gives you some order. It gives you identity, but it definitely gives you order. And it's not about mimicking what was done in the past, but about understanding why it was done. For example,
Yes.
as a Haitian, I had to teach myself because growing up Haitian, when you walk into a room and you would kiss the women on the cheek, that's what Haitians do. Women had to kiss everybody on the cheek, but as a Haitian man, I would kiss the women on the cheek. Dealing with American women, they would look at that like I was flirting. But it's like, no,
Mm,
it's a matter of respecting you. And I didn't know while I was being taught that. I don't even know who taught it to me because I don't remember anyone ever sitting me down saying, look, you kiss a woman on the cheek when you see them. But I knew to do that. You know what I mean? But whatever the case was, now that I'm older, I see the point was to respect them. When you see the man, as a Haitian man, I would shake their hand, and we
Yeah.
would do everybody. We wouldn't just walk in the room and just say hi.
yeah. Same
No,
with
no, you go to
us.
each
Yeah.
individual. Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
it's a matter of respect. It's very hard to dehumanize somebody when you're greeting them, a certain way as a form of respect. It's very easy to ignore you if I just do one big wave. Then I probably didn't see you. But if you came to my party, I would know that you came because if you saw me, you would have greeted me. If I saw you, I would have greeted you. And if
Mm,
I forgot that I greeted you, I would greet you again, just to ensure that you know that you're valuable. Those are the principles. So if it morphs anyway while we're here in the U.S., whatever the case is, as long as that principle of we respect human life is still being passed down, however it may be morphed, that's important. You know what I mean? This is what was passed down to me. I passed it down to my son, and he may
yeah.
switch it and change it, and vice versa. But the principle remains the same. Human life is very important, not
And
just one
that's
thing.
and that's why a lot of people have a problem with like marrying outside of your culture and your country,
Yeah,
because those values will eventually change and maybe
yeah,
disappear.
yeah.
So that's
Mm.
why it's a challenge.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah. Yo. Okay, so when I went to Oakwood, that was the first time I had ever been around that many different black cultures before.
Mm,
Hmm.
But it was almost a thing that I didn't pay any attention to until it became a thing. Like if there was like all the Jamaicans in the house, you know what I'm saying? Like
yeah, yeah.
until those times, like I didn't take notice that we were all from different backgrounds.
Mm,
We mix together effortlessly. And
yeah.
I think that may be only an experience you can have if you go to HBCU. I don't know.
Agree.
Yeah,
But
Agree.
yeah.
we
Agree.
were
Yeah.
blessed to have that experience.
Yeah.
Man, I have friends from Barbados, Trinidad, Jamaica, Kenya, Nigeria, Ghana,
Yeah.
Congo, Angola, everywhere. I have friends from everywhere. And so I've been blessed, and I know it's the same for you guys. And so I kind of want to do something as we end, just the final thing.
Yeah.
Um, I would like you to big up. Okay, me and my friends at Oka, we had this thing right where we would have sessions where we would edify each other. We like kind of like a grows and glows type situation. Like we would say, "Hey, this is what you're great at. This is what you need to work on." And we would just show each other love, and I think that's kind of something I want to do as we close out, but in regards to our particular cultures. And so
Mm,
I'll start. I would like to say what it is to be African American. So if I was speaking to my African brothers and sisters and my Caribbean brothers and sisters, and then I want to big up your specific cultures just based upon my interaction with y'all.
mhm.
And then we could each do that. I'll go first, Miriam and Lawrence, if you want to finish out, and we'll end on that point. That's cool.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, bet. So, okay, for me to be African American, man, is like precious. Like I felt devalued in it for a while until I learned the history fully. I think Black Americans are unique in that we had like the central fire of like the global Black struggle. Like when a lot of leaders in the Caribbean couldn't get traction, they came to Black America to find traction. Marcus Garvey, even Farrakhan is half Jamaican. Different concepts such as Pan Africanism didn't get true traction. It began in Trinidad. That those were the creators, CLR James and George Padmore and people like that created Pan Africanism, but it took shape in the U.S. And a lot of African revolutionaries came here. Patrice Lumumba, who's one of them, and even a Castro got love in amongst Black Americans. Like we've always had these, we've always been very pro-Black, and we've had these stints of pro-Africanness, during the Civil Rights Movement, during the Black Panther era, the 70s, Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud, and they was rocking their dashikis and Soul Train. And so I think there's been no one to champion the idea of us all being one people more than Black people in America and then Caribbeans, right? And so I think that's our legacy, the HBCU. We've even, cleared the way for all of the Black world to come and be educated in America. It's partially our fight, and so I see us as, not the superior in any way, but head in head with like a Haiti that's the first Black nation to get free after the onslaught of white, I don't call it supremacy no more, white insanity. You know what I'm saying? Like, and for a long time growing up, I thought that the Haitians getting free was like the French were just like, they didn't want to deal with y'all no more. They just kind of nah, like y'all was getting it in. And I've read the stories and I know about how they would put babies in the cannons to disable the or not babies, I'm sorry, but stick like their arms and limbs and cannons to disable them. And the kids would sneak up in the tall grass and disable the cannons, and then the men would attack, and the women was fighting too, and it was intense, and the Haitian Constitution, the first one, any Black person that touches Haiti is free. Man, like if you talk about Pan-Africanism, man,
that's it. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I learned that Haiti even took in 2,000 freed Black people in the U.S. that wanted to leave, that did not want to be in the U.S. anymore. They were free, slavery was still happening, and they went to Haiti, and they still exist there to this day. I feel on par with the Kenya, you know what I'm saying? What I think is the most beautiful country on the planet.
Yes.
And no cap, son, no cap. You know what I'm saying? Like I ain't hyping y'all at all, but like the city, Nairobi, a big metropolis, is bustling. You got monkeys running around like how cats do in America. You know what I'm saying?
Where that
they
at?
pigeons, is like storks, fam. I don't know if you ever, but they don't got pigeons. They got these big stork birds, like them, just like they tall as you when they land on the ground, right? And they go into like the rolling plains, and that's like where they like shooting like Discovery Channel, fam. Like you see like Discovery Channel trucks and like elephants and tigers and not tigers, lions and cheetahs and stuff like that is everywhere, and herds of wildebeest, and it's just majestic plains. And then you could go to Mombasa and be at the coast. You know what I'm saying? And it's on the Indian Ocean, and it's just it's beautiful. You know what I'm saying? And then the people and the food and the culture, it's just amazing. Like I love Kenya, and I know about the history too. I know about Jomo Kenyatta. I know about the what were the warriors called? Man.
Masai?
Nah, I definitely know about the Maasai. I got the Maasai chain. Is it near me right now? I could pull it out. I think I got it near me. No. But it was a group of warriors back when Kenya was getting its liberation. The
Mau Mau
come on, y'all.
rebellion or what? Yeah.
The Mau Mau. Yeah. Come on now. I first learned about the Mau Mau from Malcolm X. This was my Kenya chain that I got from a Maasai woman. Nice. You know what I mean? And so and I respect the grind of Africans in general. Like I think you guys are the most educated group of immigrants in the US, and I think Europe as well. You know what I mean? Like nobody is Arabs, Asians, Chinese, Japanese, Indian, nobody compares in terms of academic prowess in terms of immigrants with students from Africa. And so, man, I think we've all made our contributions, you know what I'm saying, to the struggle, and I think Kenya, especially, it's just having such a strong economy in the face of everything, the British and things of that nature. So having that strong economy and being one of the premier nations in Africa right now, just big ups to you guys. You know what I'm saying? Big ups to Haiti, big ups to the whole Caribbean, and y'all feel free to say whatever you want. And I'm done.
I'll start with Haiti. I didn't know anything about Haiti until I went to Oakwood. I had a Haitian roommate, Patricia Charitable. Woo
Hey,
woo!
my
And
homie.
that was my first exposure to Haitian food. Her mom brought some Haitian food is good. You hear me? Haitian
Yes.
food is delicious, man. Dijon Jean,
Yeah. Yes.
for sure. And of course, for you guys paving the way as the first independent Black country. I mean, I haven't read a lot about it. I actually wanted to go to Haiti in May, still working on it. But thank you for what you did. You are powerful people. I have spent a lot of time with Haitian women. They are some strong women.
Yes. Yes, it
Okay,
is. Yes,
like
it
it is so impressive. It is so powerful to see that, like, Black girl magic to the max. Okay,
is. Mhm.
and for African Americans, like I told you, I've always loved African American culture. Number one, I do feel like you guys are the best singers in the world, second to
Mm.
none
Hey.
of Africans, like hands down, hands
Mm,
down. I mean, not only singing, poetry, the intelligence, and I think the problem is that people have seen this one dimensional, narrative of African Americans, which it is just, it's incomplete. And for
mm,
me, learning about your culture, getting to know you guys personally, it has been such a privilege. Like, I I tell people I'm like a literal African American because I'm African and then
Mhm.
I'm American. So um
mm,
it has been a pleasure being here, and I would even urge Africans to please read up on their history. We need to do better. We need to do better. But
mm,
we are one people, and we need to come together and solve these
mm.
issues. It is my dream. I'm calling it the mass exodus back to Africa. Like,
Yes.
Mm.
I really want this to happen because we
I'm
cannot,
with it.
and this is the thing I'm kind of going off subject, but for us Africans, we cannot sit here, get educated here, and then complain of what's going on back home, and we're not doing anything to fix it.
That's
We
right.
have
That's
learned,
right.
we have so much tools to go back and make Africa great, even better than here. To be honest with you, we
Absolutely.
I know I don't belong here. I love America's cool, but I belong back home in Africa. So let's
Amen.
think
Mm,
about that. The mass exodus back to
mm,
Africa. But
Yes.
yes,
mm, mm,
so
mm.
All
So what
right.
is it to be Kenyan? Real quick, I just want to. What is it to be Kenyan?
what is it to be Kenyan?
Yeah.
Wow, that's okay. To be Kenyan is to be so many things are going through my mind. Like, in one sentence, it's to be strong, it's to be fierce, um, to be educated, um, and to be prideful of who you are. I think that's one thing with Kenyans. We're just prideful to be Kenyan. The
Mm,
African, the
Mhm.
Kenyan pride. But
mm.
there are a lot of things. I think that's what I can come up with, like 3 words.
All right. Cool. 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 For
All
sure.
right.
Lawrence.
Well, I'll start off what it means to be Haitian.
Mm,
Uh, Man, to be Haitian is to be strong. To be Haitian is to be a leader. To be Haitian is to take action and to not talk, but to do and to be. To be Haitian is to be compassionate and loving, recognizing that it's a great responsibility to be Haitian and it's our job to share that love and that aggression for the benefit of all people, especially those of our people, our African people. To be Haitian is to be spiritual. Haitians are some of the most spiritual people you will ever meet, no matter what they practice. no,
Facts,
no
man.
matter what they practice, if they practice it, they practice it for real. They believe in it, and that's what it means to be Haitian. There's a spirit about being Haitian. There's a pride about being Haitian. And where we can work is that we can, if we can go back to that revolution spirit where we can become one again, we can look at each other and look at those symbols and remember that though we speak different languages, we're one people. Because that's what inspired the revolution. We saw those icons and we were reminded of the gods that we served. And Haiti saw it as a sign that the gods are still with them. That's
Mm,
what inspired them to fight the revolution. I believe, even as a Christian, that if we can understand that God is still with us, we can fight this revolution here and unify each other and take our country back. I believe we can
mm,
do that. Um, and as much as I'm Haitian, I'm also definitely American. I can't deny it, man. I'm a big Jay-Z fan.
mm.
From Black from the Black album prior. The new stuff, I don't know. But but from Black album prior, man, Jay-Z, he was the hood scriptures, you know what I mean? And just hip hop as a whole was us. It was our outlet. That's American. As
Mm,
African as hip hop is, it is so American to be able to take that pain and that aggression and not find necessarily a solution to the problem, but a sanctuary in the midst of the
Mhm.
problems. Man,
mm,
that is dope, bro. Like that is awesome. I think Black people should be proud of that. Black people should be proud to say like when life threw us lemons, we knew how to make lemonades. Like we did it well. You know what I
mm,
mean? We took our pain and created the most beautiful art with it, whether it be
mm,
poetry, graffiti, even dancing, and the creativity of Black America is just second to none. If you try to describe Black music in America, you can't. You have to talk about Black music in the '70s, Black music
mm,
in the '80s, Black music in the '90s. Because it's
mm,
all different. And
mm.
right when you think you've reached the pinnacle of it, it's like we just keep on coming up with some new stuff, man. That is just amazing, man. Big ups, definitely to Black Americans. And for Kenya, I lied to you not, man. When I went to Zimbabwe, everyone in Zimbabwe told me I had to go visit Kenya. I lie to you not.
Beautiful, man.
They said Kenya is so beautiful, and they
Oh,
talked about the money in Kenya. They said Kenya has money. Kenya is highly respected, and I can say
Facts. They
personally,
not
wow.
poor. Yeah.
they not
You
poor in
think that,
Kenya. Yo,
I
they
see
told me in
that.
Zimbabwe, yo, they said, yo, you got to go to Kenya. And like out of all the places, they said you got to go to Kenya. They
Wow.
told me all the countries in Africa. 'Cause I told them one of my goals is to go to every country in Africa in my lifetime. I want to hit every country. And
Me
they said,
too.
well, you got to make Kenya your next stop. That's what they told me,
Mhm.
like straight up. If you don't hit everywhere, hit Kenya. You got to go to Kenya. And personally, all the Kenyans that I met have been beautiful people. I cannot think of a rude Kenyan like right now. I can't even think of one who is
Oh,
just rude. Like it just doesn't come to mind. They've always been welcoming, always been loving. I love I don't know if it's Kenyan or just the Kenyans that I met, but I love the dark texture. Like you guys have smooth skin. Like it's like
yeah.
a clean black. Like yes, it
That
is
equator
so
sun.
gorgeous. Yeah. It's gorgeous, man. It is gorgeous, and
Yeah.
I'm hoping that maybe me and Rob could take a trip so Rob can show me around.
I go every
Um,
year. Feel free. My parents are moving back, so you have a place.
oh, that's beautiful. I
Don't
believe
say
you.
that. When you going?
Look,
Sign me up.
I
Uh,
believe you. I'm gonna take you at your word. And for all of Africa, man, my first African country was Ghana. And when I went to Ghana, man, I felt like I was home. Like how you talking about how when you went to Kenya, you felt home. When I went to Ghana, I felt like I was home. Even when I was shaking their hands, it's like I knew what to do without anybody telling me. Their food was very similar to Haitian food. It was just a beautiful. It opened my eyes to a lot in regards to Africa. So man, I'm done, man. I'm just excited. I'm done.
I love
that
it.
Good. All right. Well, yo, I think this is a great first conversation. We got to have some more pertaining to. I would like to talk more about culture and
Yeah.
kind of how we codify it, and maybe what how are young people reacting to the culture right now in Africa and the Caribbean and here in Africa or here in America. I would also like to talk about unity in terms of economics.
Mm.
I started, or let's say I'm a part of a group of um, people of African descent. We're like a investment group, and we tried to invest in Kenya first go round. Didn't work out, but we didn't lose any money, so we consider it a
Real
win.
estate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, we're listen. We trying to get it together, y'all. We gotta get into position.
Yeah.
But there was one Kenyan. There was one of my brothers from Swaziland, another one from South America. I mean South Africa. A few African Americans, a Haitian was in the group, and so it's very diverse, And I don't. We weren't very intentional about it being what it is, but man, I think I think it's the future of Pan Africanism and kind of global Black unity is us kind of linking
Mm-hmm.
up in that regard. And so I want to get at some action steps for us to take as young people of African descent of how we can link up,
Mm.
across the waters, man, and try and do some big things. So I
Mm.
appreciate you all. Where can they find you? Where can they go to follow you if anybody wants to check you out and see your exploits?
Um, my name on Facebook is Miriam Doreen. So it's like Miriam in the Bible, and then Doreen is Doreen. And my what is my Instagram? My Instagram is Mircyat. Meerkat. It's a nickname people gave me. Those are my two main platforms. I do Twitter and Snapchat here and there, but not really. You wouldn't get anything from there. But yeah, come to my Instagram. That's where I'm most.
Miriam is a part-time comedian. If you didn't know,
What?
the highest of quality. I mean, no shade by part-time either. She just be doing other big things. That's all. But comedian. So check her out, y'all. Lawrence, what about you, man?
You can catch me on Instagram at Launch to Front. Well, I mean that's my professional stuff, but at Launch to Front. I'm on Facebook, Lawrence to Front. I'm on Twitter, Laws to Front. So if you can spell my last name, you can find me. I got my website, lawrencetofront.com. That also connects you to all that stuff. So yeah, I'm around, man. I'm around.
For sure. All right. Well, yo, my name's Robert Bailey. You can find me on Instagram, Robert Allen Bailey, one word. You can find me on Facebook at the same. Check us out, yo. Stay tuned for the
Thank
next
you.
episode. Appreciate y'all.
Thank
Yeah.
you for this,
Good
Rob.
night.
Peace.
Yep.
Have a
Thank
good
you,
night.
Rob.
Peace.
Bye. Bye, Lawrence.
Bye.